All right, we're back. Welcome to Huddle Up. We're officially in the time of the year where it's schedule watch season because we've got, 6 weeks to go. The playoff picture is starting to take shape. There's some teams that months ago we thought were out of it, like your Denver Broncos. Oh, he's wearing the shirt today. I love it.
Today.
I didn't even realize that.
Had to.
And then there's some teams that we thought months ago would be coasting at this point. Prime example, the Buffalo Bills, who are now sitting at a point where the playoffs seem like a long shot, and I think we're going to talk about that today.
Predicting this sport is so difficult. So we're going to try and double down on that now, which is bad for us. I think the Ravens have right now, Ravens are in first. They've got the 1 seed. They're going into a bye week, which is really fun because by the time they get out of that bye week, we could have 4 teams at 9-3, the Chiefs, the Jags, the Dolphins, and them, which makes the race for the 1 seed really fun. I think the Ravens have the toughest schedule of them. So I've got the Chiefs, then the Ravens, then the Jags, then the Dolphins as my 4 division winners. I don't think anyone's going to challenge those teams for the division. As well as the Steelers and Browns are playing, I don't think they can make a run in the AFC North. So that really leads to the fun of this race in the AFC, which is the wild card. I'm going Steelers because their schedule is just a joke. I'm going Texans, and I'm going Broncos, which means the Bills, the Colts, and the Browns are out, which I think is crazy to me that the Buffalo Bills are going to miss the playoffs, and this is going to be one of those kind of runs that we look at where they needed to win a Super Bowl in one of these runs because who knows when it's going to happen.
Windows can close so quickly in the NFL, and
quickly.
Not to say that the Bills aren't set up to... Like, let's be honest. They're 6-6 right now, but they got a point differential in the plus 100s. Like, this is still a...
It's not a 6-6 team. Like,
it's a very weird season that they've had in the sense that they've taken their foot off the gas in situations where they've had easy wins. Like, if you want to talk about the Dolphins, everyone can rip on them all they want for beating up on bad teams. But the truth is that has gotten them very, very far this season, and they're probably going to play a home playoff game because of it. Whereas the Bills have played pretty much a very similar schedule, but just haven't been able to grind out those wins against those bad teams. And that's why they're 6-6 and on the outside looking in. So it's tough to think that there's a very real possibility where they are going to miss the playoffs. And in my predictions, I think I'm going to keep them out as well. I'm going to keep that front four the same, or the top four, same as you. I do think the Chiefs are probably going to pull out the 1 seed just from how I've looked at every team's schedule. The Ravens have some tough teams ahead. And, I mean, the Ravens and Dolphins play each other, which could be a very, very crucial game. And then when I'm looking at the wild cards, the Broncos are so hot right now.
I know.
And I kind of want to put them in. But the one team that you don't have is the Cleveland Browns. And I have their schedule right here. Yes, I know quarterback has been a disaster. You know, DTR just got hurt. Now it's like they've got to go back to PJ Walker. But this team wasn't winning games when Deshaun Watson was healthy because of Deshaun Watson. Like, he was playing as a below-average starter, in my opinion. So I'm not ready to give up on them. And the fact that they already have 7 wins, they go into LA for the Rams. Okay, a road game against a very inconsistent Rams team. I still can chalk that up as a game that they could win. They play the Jags at home. Again, the Jags are a good team, but inconsistent on offense. I could see this Cleveland defense getting in Trevor Lawrence's face and making things very tough for him. Then they play at home to Chicago, on the road against Houston, another young team that hasn't really proven that they can win these tough games in December. And then they got the Jets and the Bengals. So a ton of winnable games there. And I think if they just go 500, that's 10 wins. That's enough to get them into the playoffs. So my final 3 wild cards, again, I'm going to have to agree with you on the Steelers. The schedule is so favorable. The Browns, I'm going to have them in just based off this. And then it's the Texans and the Broncos. And from that, they play each other this week.
It's a playoff game.
Whoever wins that game, and I know it's still early, but we get all prisoner of the moment. But that is going to prove to me who goes on to get that last spot. This is so tough. I'm going to say it's the Denver Broncos.
Wow, here we go.
I don't think that they're necessarily a better team than the Houston Texans, but something about how Sean Payton has just managed to... Like, this is a team that allowed 70 points to Miami and lost to the Jets at one point.
And now they've allowed like 80 in their last 5 games combined or something
Like
like that.
Vance
It's
Joseph.
insane.
I'm honestly surprised Vance Joseph got back on that plane from Miami and was allowed into Denver. But here he has his defense playing great football in the months that matter most. Because let's be honest, it felt like the world was falling down in week 3. And I think we did one show about who's going to get Caleb Williams, and Denver was like a prime candidate. But it doesn't matter, especially in September, if you lose by 50 points, which they did, or if you lose by 3 points. And they've managed to turn it around. So kudos to the Broncos.
The Bills conversation, I want to stick with it a little bit because we've mentioned they have a tough schedule. So it's the next 3 games after this bye. Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, and then they get the Dolphins to end the season. They get a Patriots game in there, but they've lost, and all 6 of their games have been by like 7 points or less. All 6. And so that's a team where, yes, we love Josh Allen. We love the offense. They fire their offensive coordinator. The offense looked great this weekend against the Eagles. Like, that's a tough loss. At the same time, that schedule of games just is so daunting. It doesn't get easier, and you're losing the close games. So I have no faith in you to win the close games now, and you need to against some of these good teams. I don't think it's any disrespect to the Bills. I just think it's been such a tough season for them, especially defensively with all the injuries that they have. Josh Allen has really had to be the guy that is carrying this team in all aspects, and he did his best against the Eagles to do that. And I think if they would have won that game, I think I'd probably stick them in the playoffs because I've seen them beat the team that has 1 loss, and I feel a lot better about them at 7-5, I guess, than I would at 6-6 right now. So it's really tough. They have the best quarterback of any of the teams that we're talking about in this wild card race, like by far.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud is right up there, but obviously longevity, he's got to prove it in his career. It's the first year he's playing great. That's fine. But if I were to trust a singular quarterback in the wild card race, it'd be Josh Allen. If I trust a singular team, though, it's not the Buffalo Bills, based on how they've played in close games, based on some of the ways they've lost, and the schedule kind of coming up.
All right, let's move on to the NFC, which I feel like has been a little bit more of what we all expected in the sense that it's very top-heavy. The NFC South is terrible. Like,
It's brutal.
Going in, I feel like there has been less surprise where there isn't really a team like the Texans or like the Broncos that has had this massive surge this season. But there still is a lot of intrigue because there are teams like the Packers and the Rams who, at their best this year, have looked really good, but haven't been able to consistently put together a solid product on the field. And as a result of that, are on the outside looking in. But I'm still giving them a chance.
Packers?
Both of these teams. I mean,
I agree. Okay, let's go 1-7 then. I don't think you got the Eagles in first.
I mean, even if the 49ers win this week, they essentially have to win out, which is a lot to ask, as good as they are. And I think maybe deep down in my heart, I still think that they might be the best team in the NFL. But I think the 1 seed is just about wrapped up, even if the Eagles lose. Like that Bills-Eagles game, we could look back on as like one of the most pivotal, decisions in the NFL, where it kind of solidifies the Eagles as the number 1 seed, which come NFC Championship time, that home game is going to be massive, and it could very well have sunk in the Bills out of the playoffs when it's all said and done. If they miss by 1 game, like there it is right there. I'm going to have them as the 1.
49ers, Lions, 2-3. I don't think it gets any easier than that. Okay, so this is the tough one. Who's the NFC South winner? Because I know the Falcons just beat the Saints. They play each other in the last week of the season. They have the same record right now, and the Bucs are 1 game back of them, and their schedule is kind of favorable too. These teams all will play each other again. I really don't know who I'm picking. Like, I'm tempted to just keep the Falcons, but like, I don't know, man. I don't trust Arthur Smith.
Of these 3 quarterbacks, I trust Desmond Ridder the least. Easily. Falcons have a very good defense. I think they're a good home team, but they're just so frustrating and they're not consistent. I want to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because
I like it.
We started today talking about, we're officially on schedule watch. They play the Carolina Panthers twice.
2 wins.
It's a team that's got nothing to play for. They're changing the head coach. Like, who knows how that's going to happen? then there are games still against the Saints and the Falcons. So like you said, it's going to come down to these divisional games. It is such a toss-up. And really, at the end of it, this team's going to play the Cowboys in the first round, and that is not a toss-up. So
I am going to go with the New Orleans Saints for reasons of, I mean, they faced the Panthers and the Giants, the Rams, the Bucks, the Saints. So they end this year with those Pig 2 divisional games. I know Derek Carr's not good, and I don't trust him, but out of the 3 quarterbacks, Baker, Carr, Ritter, give me Carr and give me the Saints defense. Like, I really like the Saints defense. I think they've been a pretty consistent unit all year long. I also don't think the Saints have played a lot of good teams, and they haven't really had an impressive resume to make me think that they can win the NFC South. At the same time, I think when it's all said and done, it's like what the NFC East has been every year except the past couple. The last game of the season is going to decide it. Give me the Saints at home against the Falcons. I like them in the Superdome. There's an argument to be made that you can pick all of these teams and you wouldn't be wrong.
But now we get into the wild cards, and the 5 has been decided since August pretty much. Was either going to be the Eagles or the Cowboys because it's just such a good division. The 6 and the 7 is super interesting because the Vikings, in my eyes, have been one of the best stories all year long. You have this terrible start. Kirk Cousins is just carrying this team back in. And once you feel like they're back and maybe they even have a shot for the division, he tears his Achilles, which is just horrible to see. But then you have Josh Dobbs come in, the Pastronaut, who has had this great career journey and has really solidified himself as, like, I honestly think next year he is going to start somewhere. Like, he's been that good for the Vikings. I'm into them playing a playoff game, and not only playing a game, but being like a tough out. Like, if you're talking about potentially 3 versus 6 being Vikings-Lions, that is a game where I think it's hard to decide who wins. I'm loving the Minnesota Vikings right now with what I'm seeing, which leaves
the
one spot. Well, we didn't even talk about the Seattle Seahawks.
We didn't, which is...
They're in right now.
They're in right now. Are they going to be in forever, though?
So they have the hardest schedule of all teams. They got the Cowboys, they've got the 49ers, they've got the Eagles.
All in a row, too.
Yeah.
Like, these are 3 consecutive games. They've got a bye week after the Thursday nighter this week to prepare for the 49ers, a rematch of the drubbing that they just got handed on Thanksgiving. And then the Titans are not an easy out by any means. That's not a fun team to play. The Steelers, and then the Cardinals to end the year.
I don't think the Seahawks are going to get in. That's my prediction. I think it's going to be one of the Packers or the Rams that vaults them. I love the way that Green Bay's playing. Jordan Love heard the noise. He heard how important this second half of the season was for him going forward as the future potential quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, and they've picked up some very, very tough wins. The defense is playing great. Rashawn Gary is like an underrated. He's obviously not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he deserves his flowers as an elite pass rusher in this league. And you're starting to see, you were talking about preaching patience. Guys like Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, these young weapons that just needed some time to gel and build fluidity as an offense. And I think we're starting to see that in Green Bay. I really am.
I want to double down, and we were high on the Packers going into
I actually picked them to win the division.
Jordan Love going into the season for a reason. I think you see the talent. I think it was all on display in that Thanksgiving win against Detroit. Like the arm angles, the deep ball, the touch, the accuracy. He looked kind of like an Aaron Rodgers clone in a sense where you're seeing it and you're like, yeah, we can win with this guy. I'm all in on them. Their schedule is kind of favorable. I'd say, like, you got the Chiefs coming in on Sunday night, and I know the Chiefs they've kind of been up and down. They look good. Obviously, it's not an easy task stopping Patrick Mahomes. I love what the Packers do on defense, though, and I'm kind of into them. So, like, I'm not saying that's a guaranteed win for the Chiefs. Like, the Packers could play them tough. They just went into Detroit, a team that no one gave them a chance to beat, and they beat them. They're off 2 straight wins. They've won 3 of their last 4. And then you get the Giants, the Bucks, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears to end the season. Those are all winnable games based on how Jordan Love is playing right now. I'm going to say they sneak in and are the last seed in the NFC as the wildcard team. I just really like what they're doing, and if there's a team I want to see, it's the Packers. I think the one kind of thing you can take away from this is it's going to be an amazing end to the season. We are in for some awesome games. Like every week, there are multiple games that could shape the outcome of how the playoffs form out and the seeding and all of that stuff. Everything is still up for grabs, even in the AFC, despite the division winners being locks already.
Yeah, the stakes are getting high, and we'll be here for all of it. So keep tuning in and following along, because we will be delivering these types of NFL chats every single week now. And yeah, if you made it to the end, thanks for sticking with us.